spring training it's always an experience. The spring training experience is something else and different nonetheless, this year once again, but it's more than it was last year, of course. So we still have one more month to go, a few more weeks of spring training. Then we have opening day. So very, very excited. Cannot wait to get back in there, see it all in action. So my countdown, of course, is on. I don't have the hours and the minutes and all that stuff, but it's 30 days away. Going on more baseball. We're here at the cusp end of the show. Just a few more minutes left here, but we have David Price. He is back for the season. He is back with the Los Angeles Dodgers. What does this mean for the Dodgers? What does this mean for David Price? Him being out for the entire season last year, going back out, being on that mound, it's not gonna be so easy, Ed. And of course, David Price says that he will do what he has to do and what the Dodgers ask him to do, whether that's him being a starting pitcher, whether that's him coming out of the bullpen. But he, not pitching, really having that consistency and not pitching for an entire season, you will definitely, as a pitcher, your body's going to feel it. You're going to have to work yourself back to being that caliber pitcher, to be in that performance in what you were competing and being out there and doing. It's not going to be so easy for David Price, I don't think.
But the great thing about the Dodgers is they're so deep with all those arms they have with Trevor Bauer and Clayton Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin. So from a standpoint from the Dodgers, they're good with their arms. So even if David Price struggles a little bit, because as you say, he didn't play the entire 60-game season last year. He hasn't played essentially in 2 years, but he's a professional. It won't take him long to get his feet underneath him, to get his mind right, to get his body right, and be ready. But the Dodgers are so deep with the arms they have, with that pitching staff they have. They could stand to be without him, but they couldn't stand to be without him. He's a Cy Young Award winner. Yes,
definitely. But I think it will definitely, be scary.
It'll be horrifying
with having David Price back on the rotation for the Dodgers, regardless, whether he's on top of his game or whether he's maybe not the best. He doesn't have the best season of his career, just being back from, not playing for essentially, an entire season, which pretty much puts it almost at 2 years. I just don't know what to expect because, he's a good pitcher. So the last thing that we'll go ahead and talk about in the show today is I was reading or going through my news and I glimpsed through an article saying pretty much that, spring training, does it really even matter? In other words, so does it even count at this point? I will give you my answer. And I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts? Does it even really count as far as where a team is going to be in the season in their performance? Do you really get what the team is going to be like throughout the season?
Yes and no, because you have to have spring training so your manager can figure out what kind of team he wants to field. You just can't just throw a hodgepodge group of men together and expect them to be a good baseball team and contend for a championship. You have to have spring training so you can develop your players and take that kind of time on all the practices you have on all the alternate fields, like say the Diamondbacks over at Salt River Fields. You've got all these alternate fields where you spread out all these players and your manager and all of your assistant coaches and everybody gets a chance to look at all of these players so you can figure out who are the best guys you want to have for opening day. You just can't just say, okay, he looks good on paper. He looks good on paper. Let's just go ahead and throw this team together and hope it sticks. Not when you have the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres in your division. You better know that Dave Roberts and Jace Tingler, the Dodgers and Padres manager, they're going to have their teams ready to go. It's just a process of fielding a baseball team. This is part of the process.
And I'm not saying that it's not important or that they shouldn't have it, But can you really rate a team of where they stand or what team they're going to be off of having off of the spring training games that they play or preseason games? If you're putting in, football terms or whatnot.
You can only look at it on paper and think that, oh man, this is a really strong baseball team. But until that season starts and you get in the heat of battle and you're fighting for a championship, you're fighting for 6 months to make it to October, to be a part of the Fall Classic, to be one of the last 2 teams standing. There's a lot that goes from April until October. There's no way you can tell what a baseball team can be like from right on opening day. There's too many factors. There's too many things that go into 162 games, Johanna. That's why they play 162 games. They don't just go to October and just have the World Series without a season.
Every year I get asked this question. And every year I answer pretty much the same. Where do I see X team being, or how good are they going to be in the season? And I always say that I cannot give you that answer until the beginning of the season. Give me probably like a month into the season, then I can tell you, okay, this is where I see the team going into the year. Probably give you an overall perspective. Giving you right off the bat or off of spring training, I cannot go by that. Because of the exact things that you said, Ed. Because you have, yes, they matter as far as, yes, getting your players into shape, or getting that chemistry, who's going to be in your lineup, etc. But as far as where your team is going to be in the season, what performance is going to be like, and all of that, you really can't go by that. Because those that are in spring training, they're not all going to be part of the team throughout the season. There's
going to be struggles throughout the course of a season. That's why no team is perfect throughout an entire 6 months. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be guys that are struggling, both pitching wise, fielding wise, and hitting wise. And you just don't know when that's going to happen. Things just happen randomly throughout the course of a season. You can't prepare for the inevitable, for the unknown. The unknown is the biggest factor that plays into a sports season. There's so many things that you just have no control over. Injuries you have no control over. Guys having hot streaks and cold streaks. There's no way you can really determine when that's going to happen. It just happens. And the best teams counteract that and have plan Bs, Cs, and Ds all the way through plan Z if needed to make it better, to fix that.
Right. So yeah, with that, until you give me your heart of the team and who's going to be there throughout the season, yes, you're going to have your injuries, and that's inevitable for every single team. And there's going to be occurrences. That's a fact of the matter. But just give me who's going to be your heart of the team, who's going to be your day-to-day guys, your starters, and etc. Then from there, I can go ahead and be okay, because you can kind of get a general idea in a sense. And and at the same, one thing too, yes, they are playing, but you're not getting their caliber performance, how they truly are going to come out, how they're going to truly come out and play in a game until you actually start the season. That's why essentially the games really, they count to an essence as far as, it's more spring training counts more those more or those players that are trying to get called up into the majors, the minor leaguers and so forth, or trying to go ahead and get that contract in, etc. That's to where that spring training counts. But if you are already or you're coming back from an injury or rehabbing or whatnot, yes. But if you are already an established player, you're pretty much in, and your spring training is actually just more of a training to you, then it's really probably not going to count so much or make too much of an impact, in my opinion.
Because at that point, you're just going through reps. You just want to get some reps in. You want to break a sweat. You want to break a lather. Want to get a lather started for the games that you're in, or say you play in a split squad game, or again, you get some work on the alternate, on the outside, the fields that are outside of the main field. You just want to get work in so you're physically ready and you're mentally ready for the season. That's all a part of being a professional and getting yourself ready. That's part of the process.
But yes, it was great stuff. So much that happened. We highlighted over the last week since we had our last show. There's going to be more stuff to come and to happen this coming week and the weekend with March Madness, the second half of the basketball season kicking off, some more fights, more baseball, and free agency, also the new league year. So much to bring to our listeners next weekend.
And that's why we do 2 hours, because 1 hour is not enough.
Not enough. So to wrap up our show, go ahead and let our listeners know how they can find you.
Yes, of course, right here, Inside Sports Talk. Brother PLR Show, The Sports Cave, every Monday and Thursday. On Twitter at EdCole43. Instagram at EdwardCole301.
Is that it?
Yeah.
My very popular guy over here, my very popular co-host. Hard to keep track of sometimes.
But your accolades and your handles and everything is about to get just as long as mine. It's not about me.
So make sure that you go ahead and listen to us each and every week on KSR in Arizona, each Tuesday night starting at 6 p.m. And we have our 2-hour show runs from 6 to 8 p.m. Make sure that you also download and listen from wherever it is you listen to podcasts as well. You can find our full segment there. And follow Inside Sports Network at Inside Sports Net on Instagram, on Twitter, Inside Sports with an extra S at the end. And myself, Johanna-Rosalye, you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at JRosalye. That's JRosalye. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good night, have a great day, and a great week. This was Inside Sports Talk.